what was your childhood like? What was growing up?
So I grew up just across the water. There's 5 kids in my family. My parents lived 7 minutes. They got divorced when I was 5, but they lived 7 minutes apart my whole life. So we went to elementary school and junior high and high school all within the same area. We were kind of like a traditional family in a lot of ways. And it was a little bit dreamy on one side. You know, like early childhood was a little bit like my mom's Snow White. She's like a Disney princess. So, yeah. Sometimes a little chaotic, you know, with 5 kids. But, yeah, it was great.
Wow.
So you know Seattle well.
Yeah.
You've watched the city go through so much.
Yeah.
Describe, you know, what Seattle was like. You started your business 10 years ago?
I started my business 10 years ago, but I've been in fashion for over 20 years. I've been in customer service for like 25 years.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like, I've watched it change, but in my heart, I always wanted it to change. So I'm like the jovial person who loves the city growing. I love the density. I love that every block is filling out.
Yeah.
It used to be like neighborhoods were spread out, and there was like a big space between downtown and the Space Needle. Like, it was a big gap of like, that's where, you know, you could practice like driving stick shift cars and, you know, because nobody was, it was parking lots, right? So I wanted it to fill in. I wanted it to be this big city. I've wanted Seattle to be on the map because every single time I try to move away or go somewhere else, I prefer the fresh air and the climate, and I need to be by water.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm here in Seattle,
And that's why you're staying.
I think so. Like, I think also it's so easy to get on a plane here. Like, it's just so easy to go anywhere that, like, I didn't even have a car for years, and I could just get on the light rail and go to the airport and do whatever I needed to do. So I love that Seattle's a hub. I love that there's a ton of different food and a lot of different people, and
Has Seattle fashion always been as dry as people say that it is, or have you seen kind of a shift in the last few years?
Seattle fashion is so strange because it has a thing. There's a vibe here of Seattle fashion.
Yeah.
There is.
It has its own
It has
look.
its own. And I used to just, the best example of this is I dated boys in the band, right? They were always in metal bands and rock bands and all this stuff. And they would kind of be the anti-fashion, but they cared so much about what band they were repping, how long their hair was, like how they moved in their clothes. And I would be like, you care so much about fashion. Like, so much, right? And so everybody cares in their own way. And Seattle has its vibe. But what's hard is there's a disconnect between, like, respectful dressing, and I think that it's like the example is like cargo shorts at the symphony, right? When we see examples of that, I feel like Seattle just lacks that respect.
Yes,
right? It's like the East Coasters would never show up, right? They would just never, and they have come to me when they're like transplants, and they're like, what is going on? And they're intimidated at their jobs because they're like, what's happening? And I've encouraged a lot of them to be bold and tell Seattleites, like, that's not an appropriate thing to wear to work, right? Like, say it,
Everyone watch out.
East Coasters they're my, I love that. I also have like a love for Southern style, and I have like, I don't know, I love people. So.
Yeah, we definitely know that about you. And I can relate to that because a lot of, like, the people that I work with coming from New York are selling all of their nice, beautiful clothing because they feel like they stand out too much, like a sore thumb, if they wear it in the streets. And I'm telling people, like,
Do it.
Now is the time to just, like you said, be bold, strut your style, influence the city, and show them how it's done, you know?
It's true, but I also, like, I've studied this for years. I've absolutely studied human interaction in regards to my look, because it is subconscious, and you can control it. And I think instead of saying, like, I don't want to be judged, just know that you are. And use that, right? And create a language for yourself. And body language is a language, and fashion is your canvas, right?
Yeah.
So I think that there's a lot of different ways, you know, to analyze things and look at it, but I think just putting it in people's hearts, because when I wear a really statement jacket and I get every conversation in the crosswalk, I get the person leaning over after dinner and saying, you know, we love, you know, it's like, the airport, the checking out at the, you know, store. It's like you kind of get every great part of humanity. And I understand that, like, certain comments can constantly be irritating because women like catcalling. Like, I've had a lot of, like, nice whatever.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel nice. It's like,
Right.
well, that was a nice word, but it feels heavy.
Yeah.
Sometimes that attention can be off-putting. But I also think when we learn how to use the right style for us, we can attract the right attention, and therefore the dialogue shifts, and we can all learn to be comfortable and elevated.
Yeah, I love that.
How did you learn how to sew? Where did you learn fashion?
I would say I'm learning today. Today I'm going to learn to sew. I've been sewing and crafting my whole life. My mom is actually incredibly talented in many different visual art mediums. So she's excellent interiors. And home, she, like, loves to remodel and decorate, but she would sew all the curtains and the pillows, and she made the dress I wore in her wedding.
Oh, wow.
And she would make clothes for herself in high school, and she told me stories, and she made some things, but again, with 5 kids, I watched that slow down, and I watched her pass the sewing machine to me when I got to high school.
Oh my gosh.
So I learned to sew on her ivory and red metal Viking at the dining room table. But it was actually just, like, little things. It wasn't really with the intent of much, because I didn't know fashion was a career. So
Elaborate.
I was looking for colleges when I realized my dad was like, you're getting a 4-year degree.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to be a hairdresser.
Huh.
Yeah, I grew up wanting to be, like, of course, it's the same, right? Playing with the body and our look, but I didn't know it was going to be in fashion. So I was actually looking for schools when I realized there was schools that offered bachelor's degrees in fashion design. And I was like, oh, look at that.
So what did you do?
Look at that. I applied.
Okay.
Period. Done. That was it. I applied. I got in.
4 years later.
Yeah, it was actually overlapping. So I did Running Start when I was in high school. So I had a 2-year degree with my associates, and then I transferred in, but I still was at, like, I think it was like 3 years or so. So I think I did a total of 5 years of school, because it didn't directly correlate from my junior college. But, yeah.
So once you got out of college, I remember when we last spoke, you were kind of sharing about the things that you were learning. And now that it's been 20 years, like, what are some of the things that you've learned in the last 20 years that you would tell someone that is just getting into fashion design? If you could talk to your 21-year-old self.
Oh, no. Well, I would say there's nothing wrong with going and sitting in as many seminars as you can to understand the industry better before you jump into something that might not be where you're headed.
Yeah.
My school was really expensive.
Where did you go?
I graduated from the International Academy of Design and Technology. It was acronymed IADT, and it was the sister school to the Art Institutes.
Oh, okay.
And actually, some of the teachers taught at the same
Wow.
the same programs at the schools. And I had friends at the Art Institute, and we had the same books. So those schools have all closed down.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And there's like in the art world, there's some very high prestigious schools, but then there's a ton of schools that are really not worth their weight.
Mm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And you spin your wheels, and then there's a lot of industry practice that says intern and, you know, build this resume. And it's kind of like you'll get noticed just like a model, just like other talent.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not quite like that. So you can't stand out like an athlete.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Where you're literally being judged that same way. The industry has so many twists and turns. Like, it's this really strange, and honestly, but fashion's a rich kid sport.
No, I agree.
It is.
I realized that once I decided to get into it, because I wasn't into it my whole life. But yeah, I agree.
And I mean, I have style in my bones, right? So I also didn't realize that it was such a, you know, gated community. But as you go through it, as you really are being like pummeled through the industry and testing every part of it, and there's so many different jobs and opportunities, and if you don't really realize that, you can spin your wheels for a really long time before you realize how to get focused and direct your energy in the industry. So
That's great
Yeah.
to know.
How would, I guess, how did you then decide on couture? How did you get?
no, couture chose me, babe.
Great.
No, couture chose me. I, again, didn't really know much about fashion. I got kind of pummeled through it. And I just had natural interest in things. And when I graduated, the things that were available to me were Union Bay, Ex Officio, REI, Filson. One rep for Nordstrom came to my senior thing. It was just, and I was doing menswear at the time. I did a menswear senior project. And I love people. So couture is one-on-one. So I went into different things. I did retail management. I got to understand like different production things of fashion. And in the larger the company, the less influence you had.
Yeah.
I found myself through internships at a small company. I got an extra internship. I stayed on 3 more months until they had a job opening for me.
Wow.
Like, because I just knew I needed to be in this like one-on-one, small space, high control, you know, and even then you got to go through it.
Yeah.
So I really feel like couture chose me, and then I just developed my skills inside of that.
Wow. That's awesome. So now you're opening your store.
I know.
Very soon.
Terrifying.
And it's going to shut down the whole city, like literally. We're so excited. So what can we expect once the store is open?
So my tagline is "This is fashion."
Okay.
And it's so natural to me, and it sounds arrogant, but I'm not saying this is the only fashion. I'm just saying this is fashion. This is, you can make an appointment from my website. You can come in and meet with me. You can just tour and see what I do. You can see my sewing room and where I create everything. But the way I work with my clients is one-on-one like this. I sketch for you. We dream about what you're creating.
Wow.
You know, we do start to finish together. We do fittings to make it perfect. And that is something that I've been so blessed to have word of mouth over the years. And now as I've sort of built roots, or sort of established roots, I should say, and am like looking into the future of this being a house, it's like literal, and you know, we're moving forward with like a fashion. I have an atelier downstairs. I'm like, this is fashion, people. Like, let's party, right?
I love it.
So I feel like I'll be able to move a lot faster through my art because now this is my first space I've been able to create on the same site that I meet with my clients. So being able to like have everything right here and create in-house and have space to house more fabrics, and projects can just move faster, so my art there'll be more of it.
Awesome.
More.
Amazing.
More often.
Yeah. Are you envisioning after this one that are we gonna see like stores from you? Like what are you
I don't think you
thinking?
can replicate couture. So I can't be in more places than one.
Right. I mean, it makes sense.
So I have scaled up before. Before I opened a storefront, I scaled up behind the scenes. I was doing ready to wear and having my signature dresses in other boutiques, and it's not fun for me. I really get drained. It's like paying taxes. It's just not my vibe.
Yeah, and you lack that one-on-one connection.
Yeah.
That is what's driving your passion.
And I feel very like I'm pushing something on you. Whereas when we work together to create something, I don't dread a moment of it. I'm like so alive.
Yeah.
Right? And when I'm trying to sell dresses to retailers, it just feels like I'm pushing a product, and that's not my art.
Yeah.
So
It's really important, just from this conversation I'm learning, it's important to know exactly like what it is that, like you were saying, like you have to expose yourself to the industry to know exactly what it is that you want, so that you can stay away and not waste that time doing things that will just drain your energy. So yeah, that's cool.
And I think people taking the lid off and showing what the industry really is. Like, instead of saying, like, wouldn't you like to know, offer a hand and show them. Right? Like, it's just me growing up and watching this, like, coming of age, I should say, not growing up, but coming of age and watching these things and watching who was shutting doors and who was holding a handout. I know that this house will be a handout. Like, I will be showing and offering and giving.
Yeah.
So I hope that helps change the fabric of Seattle, that we know there's fashion here, like with heart.
Yeah.
And there's so much talent here. We'll see a lot more, because I want to work with other programs now that I have space for those other internships, paid of course. You know, bringing people on and showing them an honest thing, so maybe they don't go to school right away. Maybe I'm the internship before school. Right? Like, instead of a requirement of part of their school and then they're still not sure. You know, it's like, why don't you come and hang out with me and see what my part of the industry is like.
Yeah. That's amazing. And I'm pretty sure a lot of youth will benefit from that.
Thank you. Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so.
So you want to, let's see, what is the future after this? What does the next 10 years look like?
The future is open. Like, I don't, there's nothing I need to check off. And then because I've had so much in my career that's shown me the ups and downs of the industry, there's nothing in my heart that says that would feed my spirit. Like, that might change, but like I have no ego about it, because I've always used art to put a roof over my head. So I've done a lot of things, right? And then they're not the things that I set off dreaming that would be. Like, you have to cut corners and you have to make sacrifices, and because I've kind of learned each step along the way, there's no illusion that something's going to be, you know, this razzle dazzle moment. Like, I've dressed celebrities, I've, you know, worked with, you know, high talent in other, you know, genres. I recently got to do a runway show inspired by one of my dresses from the hair artist that did the Hunger Games, like all of Effie Trinket's wigs.
Yeah.
She's like, I love your gowns, let me fly you across the country, and here's a runway show dedicated to your gowns we saw on Instagram.
Yeah.
So it's like, I've had the coolest things happen.
When was that?
Last November.
Where can we see that?
It was in Atlanta, Georgia.
Oh my God.
And the hair artist's name is Anne Bray, and she's a legend.
We need photos.
We'll
of that.
have to plug some photos.
Well, I mean, just like going off of that, you have dressed a lot of celebrities. A lot of your work has been seen on the red carpet of the NAACP Awards.
Yeah.
I know recently
recently
have
with
been on there.
Miss Erica Cobb.
Yeah, and also I'm sure the Oscars, Emmys, like all of those big events we've seen you on. I guess, what is your dream client? If you could work with anybody, who would that be and why?
My dream client is energy. It's not an actual human. It's when that human has that energy. So my clients in my life are the reason. Mm-hmm. They're my reason. They are so inspiring to me. Like, I could actually cry right now. Oh, I am going to cry right now. But it's just like they have like these amazing lives, right? I watch people do things like in cancer research and in, fundraising and philanthropy and all, like, yes, actresses, yes, singers, and, amazing folks like that. But I just get to meet people who are doing special things in their life because they come to me to dress them for a special occasion. Mm-hmm. So I work with a lot of brides and weddings, but my clients who work with me on their life projects, right, where I get to see them over years and time, it's like I watch their life unfold with confidence and beauty and joy. And I remove a lot of these like obstacles for them where they feel insecure, and I teach them how to show up, and they like go and change the world, and it's like, I don't know what else.
What's better than that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Wow.
That makes sense.
That's beautiful.
So I want to do that for the rest of my life.
Yeah. I love that you're a designer that isn't so much focused on the who of who you're dressing, but it's more of the impact and the experience. And I'm sure you've met so many amazing people that have come in and they've been vulnerable with you, and and I want to ask a little bit more about like what it's like working with brides, because a lot of your work has been seen in lots of weddings, and you've dressed a lot of mothers of the brides. What is that like, being in the world of fashion design? What is it like being a designer for bridal, and what do you love about it?
Well, I was just gonna say, you either love it or you don't. Like, to me, it's a very polarizing part of the industry. I think bridal is unique for design in that you 100% have to set yourself aside. In a lot of couture design, you have to set yourself aside, but you also have to know your voice and know when to really say, no, I see you in this look, and it's your look. Like, I know you see this, but I see this. And you have to follow your authentic voice to really have that come out the other side as the image you see it. But brides dream about this, even if it's subconscious. They dream about this their whole life. They're putting the most money into a single day that they might in their whole life. I mean, I don't know a lot of people who throw regular events and parties like some of us, right? Like, this is a big deal. This is the most expensive garment they'll ever purchase, very likely. Some of them have like an astronomical stomach for a bridal gown. It's like it's its own industry. Right? And I take it so seriously. Like, I didn't ever plan on getting married, and I was in the industry, I think, 10 years before I got married.
Wow.
So, like, having done over, like, 1,600 weddings, like, you start to see these, and
oh my gosh.
I see pattern recognition. That's part of my DNA, is I see pattern recognition. So I can start to meet someone and start to ask them about their planning process, how they got engaged, what the dynamic of their relationship is, and I can basically, like, predict what will be their gown. Like, I can. I feel it in my bones, and I help them get there. Not by not telling them I know it already.
Right.
Like, nobody wants to know that.
Right.
Like,
kind of just like lead
I
it.
need to, like, show them, but then, like, we get there, and I then care about it as much as they do, but I might be juggling, 50 of them at a time.
My goodness.
How long does a gown take?
Yeah.
Like one?
Well, I don't work on anything from start to finish.
Yeah.
Like everything has a process. So there's the conceptualizing and dreaming together and all the selection. And if we're sourcing fabric, that can be a few weeks. That can be months. Like
Just
week.
depends.
Yep. Then it could be a very simple, pattern that's just really detailed in the construction. It could be something that's very tedious, like beading or ruffles. I love ruffles, but sometimes. And so everything needs its own time. Like I can't bully myself through a project. So if I have to set it down, I have to set it down. If my back and shoulders can't take it anymore, we're done with that and we move on to something that I get to change my posture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's
Good.
So I would say some gowns take 15 hours, some take 45 to 60. I had a ball gown I worked on last winter that was 140 hours. So
For one dress.
for one dress.
Wow.
Well, it was a gown with an overskirt, but yeah.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I guess coinciding that with the amount of hours that you put in to each gown, the amount of hours that you're here, we know that you're here at 2 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the
Sometimes.
morning.
Yeah.
Like this week, I know has been a bit
Yep.
crazy.
This whole last week was insane, actually.
How do you have boundaries? How do we take care of ourselves? What does that look like for you? Or are you just...
This is my everything. This is
Yeah.
my family. I mean, I have a husband and I have a dog, but I don't have children. These are my babies. Like, birthing this shop is my family. This is my religion.
Yeah.
I practice basically this loving connection to the universe to tap into each one of your spirits to like design for you and create for you, but then I tap into mine and the divine just to clear my headspace, which is my runway shows and my creations. And I have great friends that come to me, right? So we have standing dates that we meet in the middle and we make it work. So I always get to see my friends and socialize. But I have, all my my facial, the massage. This is all on the calendar as an appointment.
Okay.
So you prioritize that. You prioritize your...
Yeah, I mean, I do. So, I do these things once a month, right? I go get a facial once a month, but it gets blocked out and it's my clients don't need to know that appointment is my facial because I work 7 days a week.
Yeah.
I work 7 days a week, sun up to sundown. Occasionally I'll sleep in, but I told my husband I slept in the other day and he's like, it's 8:30.
You sleep in till noon. Sometimes.
I sleep in...
My husband-
If I sleep in, it's till 11, 12.
Yeah, my husband's a sleeper, so on the weekends he can sleep in. But my brain, just because I've been doing this so long, I haven't taken a breather since, I back up all the way to junior high school.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because I've always been in sports and I always had multiple things going on and I've always been, forced to be an early riser.
Yeah.
And I'm a natural night owl. So I'm just
You're
all
up.
the things. Yeah.
I am curious to know, what is your morning routine like? If you're gonna wake up
Do you
so
have
damn
one?
early,
No, I
you
have
must
zero.
have.
I have zero routine.
I love the
Really?
honesty.
No, I have zero routine. I have nothing that's the same. But if you look at my life, I do the same thing all the time. Right? Like if you zoom out, I look very similar to the same, but I have zero routines. Like this is terrible. Like
No, I love
I'm
this.
like cut this, but like the hot water in our house went out on Monday.
Oh.
And I just overheated the system drawing a bath and didn't realize it before the bath was freezing cold, and I checked it and I was like, oh no, and I don't know how to restart it. My husband's since shown me. But the water went out on Monday and I got a facial on Tuesday, and my husband came back on Thursday, and that's when he turned the hot water back on. So I'd had cold water for 4 days because I just was doing the like quick little, okay, we'll just, okay, done. And that's my routine for that week, I guess.
So it's
I was also
ever-changing.
home for 4 hours each day last week.
Yeah.
But I either, like, I will be downstairs draping, like a project that's not going to get close to my face with like a charcoal mask on.
Okay.
And it'll be midnight, right?
Yeah.
And I'm watching Schitt's Creek for the 10th
I love
time
that
and
show.
working on, you know.
I love that show. It's too
But
good.
This
It
is
is.
like, I will consistently do things if you zoom out. But day to day, absolutely no.
I love it.
routine. Yeah.
No routine.
No.
Okay.
I just live enough of a like luxury lifestyle that everything works out. Right?
Goals.
I even
Goals,
without
for
like
sure.
no,
Yeah.
seriously. Like I have this bathroom downstairs stocked. My bathroom at home stocked.
Mm-hmm.
My bag always has enough little things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I just kind of have enough little things here and there, and so I'll realize like on a whole trip, like I have the jewelry that was already in my jewelry roll, right? Like I just kind of go with whatever because I've provided for myself, so I kind of just go with what's around me,
Yeah. You kind of set yourself up like, for success, or like you make like your own path.
and I drink a lot of water.
Okay.
So that's why the sleep schedules don't really bother me as much. You know, like things don't really get to me because I like primarily in life
Just
Just
drink
drink
a lot of
water.
water. Note to self.
Is that
Yeah.
really the
To
key?
everyone.
Like for real?
I mean, look at her skin. Like this is just like
my understanding
perfect.
of the universe is that water is God.
Okay.
That's my understanding. Water is life. You know,
Yeah.
like
I mean, you need it.
water is everything. Like we're made of water. A woman's water breaks to give life. You know, rain can evaporate and come again. Like it's like rivers are feeding things. Right? Like I'm very spiritual when it comes to water. And so as an actual practice, like I calm myself down by drinking a glass of water. I think through projects by drinking water. Like, and then as like first thing I do every morning, last thing I do when I go to bed, drink water. And
There's the
I
routine.
really do. There's the routine.
Yeah.
There
I
it
knew
is.
it was there. I knew there had to be
But
something.
it's literally like I have to have. You'll see my right next to my sewing machine is my water filter, and I'm always just standing there, drinking water, getting through projects.
Wow.
So I think like that's the only consistent in my life, actually.
Water.
Yeah.
Vlog.
So I'm with Lisa Marie, and we just finished an amazing, iconic, informational, sensational interview for Seattle Style Series, and I just wanted her to say hi to you guys so you get an exclusive introduction. Hello everybody, and there it is. So tune in to Seattle Style Series. I'm going to put the link in my description, and you can learn more about Lisa Marie and our conversation about these beautiful dresses that you see all around here, and Hannah and our beautiful team of Seattle Style Series. Okay, bye.